It will speak Josef Hegedus from the Metropolitan Research Institute. The working group was focused on social housing and give the people the choice. And the objective of the working group was to discuss what development has been in place in the past 2 decades in social housing provision in selected countries, and enable participants to elaborate for the option alternative models. So, please.
Thank you very much. This workshop, working group, was a continuation of the first day presentation of Mr. Martin Lux about the social housing in the region. Basically, the starting point is that there was a huge social and political change in these countries, which contributed a huge inequality in the society and produced a huge affordability problem for significant share of the households. Other element of this political changes was the decentralization, which is in the workshop. It was a discussion about that how much we can blame the decentralized system for the lack of the housing policy. And one of the conclusions was that probably the lack of the central government intention to do housing policy is as much as a factor of this situation. The other element was what happened in the housing system. In the housing system, just again, a repetition of the Mr. Martin Lux's conclusion was the privatization, the illegal construction, which is very important in Southeast Europe, is an important problem. A new element of the private rental sector is emerging in the system, where the landlord-tenant situation is very different. Housing subsidy disappeared, and what is most important, the housing policy is very much influenced by the political and business lobbies, and the social policy, social interest is very low. In housing policies and housing programs, there is a change, a need for change of the paradigm, because social housing policy is not just public rental or sector, it's much more, and it should include the income programs, housing allowances, and should include the home ownership programs, which is more characteristic of the developing countries and some less developed countries. The real issue, there are 3 key terms which were discussed. What kind of political intervention, policy intervention there are, what are the adequate housing situation, which is very much discussed, and the third element, how you can targeting to the low income people. The real problem of not just the lack of the social housing policy, but the lack of the housing policy for the very social, very poor people, the deep poverty people. And the interesting thing was in the workshop that there are very good examples for programs when local government, NGOs, donor agencies put together the means and techniques and introduce something which is very innovative and very good, but this is not a systematic solution. And we were just discussing what is the reason there are no this kind of the generalization of these programs. One reason was this decentralization, but we basically concluded that decentralization not enough. We cannot blame decentralization for the lack of these programs. The capacity of the local government and even the NGOs is a very important element of the failure of most of the program. The political will seems to be the most important thing. So there was a interesting case studies for Serbia, which is a quite a pessimistic approach. that the politics is very easy to get around of the solution and to make happy international donor agencies and different political forces in the country without really helping the poor. One of the most important conclusions was that the NGOs, the role of the NGOs is very important in these very social housing problems, and the capacity of these NGOs has to be increased and has to be provided more resources for the NGOs to help these programs. It was not enough to have a lot of NGOs. The independence of the NGOs has to be achieved as well. We have for presentation the Czech Republic, Romania, Serbia, and even we have very interesting example for the Canada, where the Aboriginal programs were compared to the Roma programs. But we realized that the Aboriginals are much more better situation in Canada than Roma in this in Europe. Even there was some contribution for the floor about the Bosnian cases. So where there are new programs, and the problem is the same there are pilot programs, but this is very far from being a national or countrywide housing policies. I think this was the